Saitou is an unfortunate and useless odd-jobber who drew the worst luck in life. While being undervalued at work, he asked his boss to increase his pay, and his boss responded by firing him. With no hope left in his life, he walks across the street when Truck-kun nearly sends him to his maker. Luckily, he got teleported just in time to a world where he meets a group of dysfunctional adventurers who manage to make use of the hopeless jack of all trades. Episode 1. During one of his adventures, he uses his lockpicking skills to help his party open a door. While opening his satchel to bring out some tools, his party members show how oblivious and dumb they are to modern tools. The brutish-looking lady, Ryelza, began to doubt Saitou's skills as he tampered with the locks. Luckily, Saitou opened the door, but another locked door awaited them. He tried again with the help of the wizard, Morlock, and they were able to open the second door. They proceeded to the treasure chest that awaited them, which Saitou had to work on again. While picking the chest lock, Saitou remembered when he helped a lady pick her front door lock in his world. When he asked for his money, the lady thought he was nothing but a useless, petty thief for charging her so much just to pick a lock. Saitou tried to explain that it was the normal rate, but his cursed fate didn't help him. Back in the dungeon, he finally picked the locked chest, but his life was about to end on the spot. The chest turned into a mimic monster and was about to rid the party of the useless lockpicker. Ryelza came to his rescue and killed the monster. He then noticed her helmet was loose and asked her to take it off so that he could fix it. Ryelza took off her helmet to reveal one of the prettiest faces known to man. As Saitou worked on it, she acknowledged how skilled he was and tried to engage in small talk with him. She noticed herself blushing and wondered why it had to be for such a hopeless guy. When they left the dungeon, the fairy, Lafanpan, explained the difference in their party levels, which automatically made Saitou the runt of the group. Ryelza and Lafanpan began telling Saitou how Morlock was a great wizard, but he currently suffers from Alzheimer's, which makes him forget the incantations of his spells. Sometimes he forgets his party members, and even who is supposed to be an ally or foe. Despite having a bad brain, Morlock's memory never forgets his naughty interests. On one occasion, when his party members died, he had to sell their equipment to revive them, but managed to still keep Ryelza's bikini armor. On the other hand, Lafanpan is the greedy healer of the team, who requires compensation for healing them. However, most of the healing she does is basically keeping Morlock's rickety backbones in check. While outside, Saitou brings out a tape to measure some armor, and Ryelza tells him that the unit of measurement in their world is 1 madaraka, which is equivalent to 30 centimeters. Morlock then pops out and explains that it was gotten from the founder of their kingdom because he had a long third leg, which he used to father 300 children. The scene then quickly shifts to a dwarf, Gibungle, who defies all fantasy laws by being a dwarf who's proficient with magic. We also get to see a young girl and an old guy, known as Liliza and Givra, who are in the depths of a dungeon. The cute girl also defies the entire idea of being cute by being the one who handles a huge axe efficiently. At an item shop, Mayvina, the shop girl, finds it surprising that a fool such as Saitou is smart enough to use an abacus. Ryelza suddenly walks into the shop with very cool-looking armor, but quickly leaves as soon as Saitou recognizes her. After that, a guy celebrates swindling Mavina after selling a sword to her. Unknown to him, the sword was actually made of mithril and cost a fortune. Saitou and his party returned to their dungeon hunting, where Morlock proved that he's the most useless mage ever known, thanks to him forgetting his spells. Ryelza only came to their rescue because she's a lover girl and wanted to save Saitou. While the party members argued, Saitou sank into despair as he recalled how hopeless and how much of a burden he was. He asked Morlock to teach him magic, but forgot that he had no aptitude for it. In the end, he had to help the old man remember a spell to wipe out the monsters. Saitou's luck continued to run out as he picked the lock of another chest and activated a trap. He fell through a hole in the ground and broke his leg. As he lay there, he was reminded of how invaluable he was in his world and started crying like a wimp. Luckily for him, Ryelza's love wasn't about to run out anytime soon, as she and the rest of the party found him. They took their useless thief and proceeded to leave the cave. Episode 2. As Saitou continued his adventures, he and his party faced a Hydra monster. Ryelza took the spotlight as the useless runt due to her fear of slimy creatures. This left Morlock to attack the beast with his spells, while Saitou swung his sword around foolishly, hoping to deal some damage. Lefanpan stayed at the back and tended to Morlock's forsaken back pain. In the end, they were able to defeat the monster. Saitou started to cut up parts of it because he wanted to take it back and prepare it as food. The rest of the party members were shocked and probably wondered how broke he must have been to be eating such a slimy creature. He went to the item shop to ask for some assassin needles, which he used as a grill stick for the Hydra meat. Saitou prepared the meal with his house husband skills, and the taste of it sparked a different kind of joy in the hearts of his party members. The look on Ryelza's face seemed like she had found the perfect spouse as she dug her face into the food. After the meal, they continued exploring the dungeons. This time around, Saitou picked which treasure chests he would unlock. Despite his efforts, he still triggered a slime trap. It landed on Ryelza's armor, and for some reason, it was a slime monster that only ate metal. It took out her armor, which revealed her juicy melons. A view that would get a hopeless person like Morlock, and you, jumping for joy. As if the magic-wielding dwarf wasn't enough, we then briefly see an elf, Flanriel, who has no magical aptitude, and her psychotic human priest companion, Ninia, who loves to lick the wounds of her partner. Another sight that favors the pile of degenerates watching this. Meanwhile, the king of the kingdom decided to go handle the Demon King by himself, since no one wanted to do the job. At the end of it, he ended up becoming friends with the Demon King's severed head, and they started playing chess. While camping out at night, Saitou pays from his meager pocket for Morlock's back to be healed again. He later finds out from Ryelza that Lefanpan and her people were cursed by the Moonlight Goddess to continue shrinking in size if they don't give offerings of gold coins. This made Saitou feel even more of a burden than he already was. After that, he and Ryelza got sucked into a teleportation trap by a treasure chest. Ryelza finally got time to be alone with the love of her life, but was interrupted by the appearance of an iron golem. Saitou brought the metal-eating slime from the earlier trap and used it on the golem. Maybe he had plans to use it on Raelza again. Unfortunately, he got crushed by the golem's arm before it crumbled. To save his life, Raelza used a healing potion to bring him back. She could have made him drink, but instead, she used the chance to lay that first kiss on her man. Episode 3. Later on, Saitou and Lefanpan started spying on the marriage consultancy that went on at the back of Mavina's shop. The old adventurer, who was looking for a wife, spent most of his life being a shut-in and didn't leave his room until his market value had dropped. Morlock suddenly showed up and asked the consultant to be his wife, even though he'd forget her in a matter of seconds. Raelza quickly showed up from behind the curtains and dragged the old fool away. On one of the adventuring escapades, Saitou gets a one-time life opportunity to be seduced by a succubus. Raelza quickly whipped out her sword to kill the creature before it took away the only hope of a husband she had in her life. The succubus ran away, but the charm was still on Saitou. So, he switched his target to Raelza. Caught between a wall and Saitou's hard place. She didn't want to start their moment there. Lefanpan then removed the spell while Morlock was trying to get down with the succubus. He had an insanely high magic resistance, which meant that he was desperate to get some action. Next up, they get to a room with a lightning trap, where Morlock gets his brain fried, or whatever was left of it. Meanwhile, somewhere out in a desert, there's a very powerful wizard who wields a gigantic staff and attacks by swinging it around instead of casting spells. As if the craziness wasn't enough, a second-hand Shikamaru, known as Kisurugi, used his shadow-binding skills to plant a kiss on a 400-year-old witch known as Ravella. Also, the kingdom put together a band of adventurers made up of Canes, Raichi, and Monpui, who only got in because he was the nephew of the high priest. When Saitou's wire cutter broke, he and his party made their way to meet Don Bane, the only dwarf who's normal and a blacksmith. Don Bane was locked behind a door that had 108 locks, but Saitou picked through everything like the thief he was born to be. Don Bane fixes Saitou's wire cutters and invites them to a feast. Saitou eventually caught a cold and had to rest, but this caused his party's efficiency to plummet. At Mavina's shop, Saitou explained how he got transported to this world after getting fired from his job. He was about to meet the good old-fashioned truck-kun, but suddenly dropped into the bed where Raelza was sleeping. That was how Raelza fell in love, right after nearly sending him to the pearly gates. While exploring the Great Labyrinth again, Saitou finds a robot vacuum cleaner from his world. The robot escaped through a tiny hole, and Morlock uncovered it with his magic. A new area named after Saitou was discovered, and all the adventurers came around to save their bleeding pockets. This marked the start of a new age of adventures. Episode 4. Despite discovering the new dungeon first, Saitou has to wait with his party until the king's party delves into it first. Canes came to introduce himself along with Raichi, and Saitou couldn't be bothered by them. Monpui came along and wanted to render Saitou immobile, but Flanriel exposed the fat fool before he ran off. After the Demon King, Dorg, and the king's minister left the labyrinth, everyone else was allowed to enter. While Dorg and the minister were in the dungeon, They were attacked by Kisaguri, who killed them swiftly. Before they got burned, the minister quickly teleported himself and Dorg away to a temple, where they got emergency treatment. For a demon king, getting killed twice is just sad and stupid. The minister reported back to the king, who called him pathetic and told him to get out of his face. Other adventurers began exploring the new path, but the power wizard gave up because his staff was too big and long to enter. Yeah, that's what she said. Meanwhile, Saitou's group was having trouble with a giant tortoise until Eliza came to their rescue. As compensation, Eliza decided to take the treasure chest. Givra had trouble opening it, so Saitou did what he did best. Not only did he open the chest, but he also unlocked Givra's heart, who was only interested in men. At that moment, Raelza was ready to bring down the cave on them. Saitou eventually got separated from his party and bumped into the devilish Monpui. The cleric tried to make Saitou envious, but it quickly backfired on his round, ugly head. After some time, their party members found them. Monpui was moved to tears when Canes came for him. After that, Raelza began struggling with another monster again, until Flanriel came to save her weak butt. The elf wanted to take the treasure, since she helped them, but Raelza said she didn't even need help in the first place. They decided to settle the matter with a duel. Flanriel moved speedily like an assassin, while Raelza was slower than a snail on a rainy day. Thanks to Saitou, Raelza was able to remove the top of her heavy armor and switch to a lighter one. Sadly for her, but fortunately for the viewers, her dress got undone as well, and her melons were all over the place. So much for being a handyman. The two fighters forfeited their duel after that. While Ninia was crying because she didn't want Flanriel to die, Saitou showed up with his horrible and awkward timing to ruin the mood. Saitou's party got to the lower floors, and he found the vacuum again. As he chased it, he came to a place filled with items from his world. Out of nowhere, Primus shone a bright light, and Kisaguri attacked him from behind. Raelza saved Saitou, but got trapped with the assassin's shadow technique. Gibungle saved her as Primus and Lefanpan were battling it out. Meanwhile, Morlock took it as the best time to be a slowpoke, while everyone else was trying their best. Kisaguri rushed towards Gibungle, but got a surprise attack from the dwarf's fire spell. He and Primus retreated, and Morlock finally showed up. Gibungle referred to the old wizard as his master, but trust Morlock to have no idea who the shrimp was. Episode 5. Morlock denied Gibungle and said that he only took women as apprentices. The dwarf explained that Morlock went on a journey 20 years ago to look for forbidden magic, and he never returned. Gibungle referred to Morlock as the Great Mage Bergheim. He was about to call his full name before getting ambushed with a kunai attack. Kisaguri showed up again with the greater demons, Telephon and Aboleth, to face them. In a flashback scene, Kisaguri tailed Ravella to her home. He saw her lying down in the basement, and she finally looked like her age. Primus popped out and told him that the witch was dying of old age. She explained that Ravella was cursed by a demon with magic that stopped her aging. Thanks to Kisaguri's kissing skills, the curse was broken because she fell in love. And now, all the frozen time has returned to her all at once. Primus told him about a mage who could control time and who was said to live in the Great Labyrinth. That's why he went around the labyrinth aimlessly, killing people like an idiot. Morlock's spells were ineffective against the greater demons. One of them crushed Saitou's head, but it was luckily just an illusion. Saitou found himself in the arms of Givra, who saved him. It was not the best position to be caught in, but it was better than dying. Leliza told Saitou how Givra's obsession caused him to stalk the handyman until they found him. Flanrill and Keynes' idle party also showed up to help Saitou and his party. Givra's moment was ruined, and he looked like he was going to cry. Kisaguri was about to run away again, but Lafanpan and Ninia cast a spell to take out one of the demons, which caused him to jump in the way and take the hit. Primus, who's also an annoying bug, was about to sacrifice her black wings to summon a powerful dark spirit. In a flashback, she said she got fatter because she thought it would cause adventurers to stop trying to capture her. This silly decision backfired because she was now too much of a blob to fly properly. Ravella ended up saving her when she got captured, and they became friends. Now, her only friend was about to die because a so-called assassin couldn't keep his urges to himself. After much hesitation from Kisaguri, Primus used telekinesis to rip off the wings herself. The magical energy in the wings was released, and she summoned a pillar with many eyes. Before Flanrill could react, the dark spirit attacked her and chopped off part of her elven ears. Episode 6. Ninia quickly caught Flanrill's ear and got a good whiff of it before healing her and attaching it back. The dark spirit started shooting lasers sporadically, as if it were throwing a tantrum, while everyone else dashed for cover. Saitou had to help Morlock remember his spell once again, but the only thing it did was make the spirit more upset. Gibungle aimed for one of the eyes with his arrows, but that didn't work either. The situation was dire, and the combined effort of everyone was more useless than Saitou's value in life. Saitou told Morlock that he remembered seeing texts about magic that could control space and time. He suggested that they try it out, and figured that it was the old mage who called him into this world. It's then shown that in the past, Morlock's skills with women were actually true, because he managed to make use of his mushroom and have a daughter. Sadly, his quest for becoming a great mage was prioritized over the well-being of the little girl. One night, when his daughter was having a fever, his wife convinced him to stay back and be with the girl. Morlock made it look like the sickness was as good as a mosquito bite and proceeded to leave. After some time, Morlock returned to see his wife crying over the dead body of their daughter. He started throwing a tantrum after his wife left him, probably to find more responsible, mushroom-wielding men. That's when he came across some texts that talked about magic that could control time. He went to the Great Labyrinth and came across Saitou's tunnel, where he met the mage who could use time magic. Morlock asked to be taught time magic so that he could revive his dead daughter. The time magician said he would teach it only if Morlock could defeat him. The old man got beat to a pulp. The time magician then made him lose his memories and ease the pain of his deceased daughter. That was the origin of Morlock's Alzheimer's condition. He even forgot his real name and took on the name Morlock after reading the inscriptions on the necklace given to him by his daughter. Everyone else was about to be turned crisp by the dark spirit's laser, while Saitou and Morlock were talking. Saitou said he only remembered the spell, which could stop time for a moment, depending on the ability of the caster. The rest of the adventurers acted as decoys, while Saitou guided Morlock through the time spell. Lafanpan couldn't hold up her shields anymore, so Saitou tried to help, but he must have forgotten that he was still a weakling. Canes and Monpui showed up to help, while Raichi could only make a shield that was just enough to protect her incompetence. Morlock finally cast a spell, which made time stop for everyone, aside from him. In that crucial moment, when it all mattered, Morlock forgot what exactly he was supposed to do. Episode 7. The old mage only had 100 seconds to remember the plan before time would continue again. As he looked around, he saw a writing on his palm that told him to attack the eyes of the dark spirit. He then remembered that it was Saitou who wrote it down, in case his brain clocked out, like it always did. With less than 60 seconds left, Morlock jumped into action like a superhero. As he attacked the spirit, memories of Kisaguri started to flood his mind, and he saw that the assassin was just influenced by the drug known as love. Time continued once more, and the dark spirit was defeated. Morlock lost an arm as he saved Primes and her love-struck group. He then asked Lafanpan to reattach Primes's wings, while he asked Ninia to use her bodily fluids and reattach his arm. Monpui showed up to help and use his own fluids, while Ninia used her spell to heal the wound. The fat fairy didn't want any charity help from Lafanpan, because the Moonlight Fairy got along with humans. She complained about being used as an attraction for adventurers. But she should have thought about that before becoming a female Choji. Besides, she was getting along with a deranged assassin who was also a human. Kisaguri asked the rest to pardon his demon friends and send them back to the demon realm. Gibungle told the assassin that the time magician, known as Crum, whom he was looking for, was Morlock. Meanwhile, Morlock, who just got his arm fixed, was trying to test it out by asking Ninia to allow him to feel her melons. Monpui, who's the king of ruining moments, just like Saitou, told the mage to feel his nose instead. Dorg and the royal minister showed up to take care of Kisaguri and his party. The assassin was about to be turned into minced meat, but Aboleth stood in the way of the sword and got stabbed in his place. Telephone confronted Dorg, which made the Demon King reveal himself. Telephone called Dorg his uncle, and the Demon King recognized him as his younger brother's son. The family reunion soon turned into a banter session, where they mocked each other for losing to humans. The situation got so stupid that even Kisaguri looked like he wouldn't have minded dying at that moment. Saitou figured that Kisaguri would be spared if they got Dorg and the minister to forgive him. After explaining the situation, Morlock broke Dorg's heart by telling him that the real time magician, Crum, had left their world. The royal minister then told them that Ravella could only be saved using rejuvenation magic, which the king knew how to use. The spell needed the life of someone connected to Ravella to be sacrificed, which meant Kisaguri was definitely going to see the pearly gates. Everyone agreed to the conditions of Kisaguri being used as a sacrificial lamb. Primus, with the help of Morlock, sent Aboleth and Telephone back to the demon realm. Before leaving, Kisaguri asked Saitou if he was a ninja from another world, but Saitou told him that he was just an incompetent handyman who could barely afford a standard living. After that, Kisaguri and Primus were taken by Dorg and the minister. Episode 8. More adventurers started to pour into the place where Crom had summoned items from another world. Saitou rushed to the pile to get anything useful before other people would get it. On the other hand, Gibungle saw that part of Morlock's memories were back, but the old mage could only remember the dog in Gibungle's helmet. At this point, he's just mocking the poor dwarf. Meanwhile, in Ravella's torn-up house, Kisaguri was about to be sacrificed by the king, who disguised himself as a wealthy man. Madaraka struck the assassin with his sword, and Ravella was revived. She left her filthy basement to go outside and saw a crippled Kisaguri standing in front of her with just an arm and a leg. It's then shown that Madarak used half of Kisaguri's life force and half of Primus's own to revive the witch. Kisaguri was now a proper shish kebab, while the Fatso fairy could finally have some leg day to lose those calories. Sadly, Ravella had lost her memories and didn't remember who the crippled assassin was. Kisaguri decided to leave, but Primus, who seemed to have had some workout sessions, called him a coward for abandoning the love of his life. She told him he didn't have any use in life anymore, since he was crippled, so he might as well go back and win her over. He then saw some bandits harassing Ravella, and he literally limped into action. After saving her, he tried leaving again, but Primus was able to get Ravella to invite them into her home for some sweets. The bandits then revealed themselves to be Telephon and Abelith, who were just trying to help their friend clap some cheeks for the night. Back at the Great Labyrinth, the guards confiscated all the otherworldly items until the kingdom could understand exactly what they were. Saitou thanked everyone for their help, including Reichi, who spoke about how much she didn't want to be there. As everyone disbanded, Raelza called her party's attention and asked if it was really Morlock who summoned Saitou to their world. They went to a tavern, where Morlock confirmed that it was him after he tried to use some kind of magic and failed at it. That was when Saitou popped up to take Raelza's purity. Saitou thanked him for saving his life, because Truck-kun was about to send him somewhere else. Lefanpan suggested that there was a chance to return Saitou to his world using the same spell. But this broke Raelza's heart, and she ran away from the tavern while crying like a little brat. Saitou chased after her and was able to catch up. He started telling his sob story about not being needed in his world and how he felt better with a party that needed him. Raelza was about to confess her feelings when an armored serpent decided to spoil the show and attack her. While ripping the serpent apart with a brutish strength that's unladylike, she confessed that she was the one who needed him most in the world. He patched up her wound and gave her some anti-venom because of the monster's bite. Morlock finally dragged his slow butt and caught up with them. He said that even if he was able to return Saitou to his world, he would return to the exact moment and time that Truck-kun was about to end him. In the end, Saitou said he'd stay in this current world with his love-struck companion. It was about to be a happy ending until they turned and saw the serpent slowly munching on the old mage. After returning from an adventuring expedition, they were greeted with the news of Morlock's death. Episode 9. The innkeeper explained to them that Morlock wasn't breathing when he brought some food for him. The body was moved to a shed to prevent it from decaying, but a wild dog ate part of it. Saitou suggested that they try to pay the church to use revival magic and resurrect him. But Raelza reminded him of how poor they were. As they left to gather tools for desecrating the old man's grave, a hand stuck out of it. Lefanpan returned first and saw that the grave was already empty. As Saitou and Raelza made their way back, they got attacked by an undead mage. Raelza assumed it was Morlock and went to face it, but her attacks were as useless as the man she was in love with. She was about to get burned to a crisp when the real undead Morlock showed up and killed the other undead mage. Morlock's skeleton suddenly started gaining muscles and flesh until he looked human again. Back at the inn, Lefanpan explained that Morlock had cast a resurrection contract on himself that could only be used once. Even death wasn't enough to cure the old man of his Alzheimer's. Apparently, this resurrection wasn't complete because he kept switching between his skeleton form and human form. Morlock then gave them a gruesome sight by showing them that his treasured third leg was gone. Lefanpan figured that the spell wasn't complete because of his missing body part. Thanks to whatever wild dog ate his mushroom, Morlock's fun days with the women were completely over. Saitou and Morlock somehow started talking about their mushrooms, and Saitou said he was quite lacking in that area. This made Raelza quite worried about the look on her face. She should have done her research before falling in love. At the same time, Lefanpan suffered because she was being used as a measurement tool for all of this. She asked Raelza for help, but the warrior could only think about the minute size of Saitou's instrument of love. Gibungle, Morlock's greatest lover, popped out of a window with an encyclopedia on magic. According to the book, they just needed to get the missing part of the body to fix the spell. Even if the dog had it for breakfast, the magical energy from Morlock could still be extracted and used to fully revive him. Saitou picked up the Magipedia and saw that it was the old geezer who wrote the book himself. On the other hand, the stupid dog who ate Morlock's sausage was actually a demon Rottweiler who fell in love with a white female wolf. The demon lord demanded the wolf's pet, so the demon dog tried to run away with her. They got stopped by one of the demon lord's lackeys, who fatally wounded the wolf before the dog killed it. As the dead wolf lay on the ground, the demon dog saw a cub come out of her. So he fled to the human realm, where he and his offspring continue to live. Still, the dog suffered from the binding chains cast on it by its master. Back in town, Gibungle and Lefanpan got into a competition to look for Morlock's missing wiener. With zero luck, Flanrel showed up and told them about the quest relating to the demon dog. While they looked for the demon dog, Morlock told Saitou about how Raelza lost her parents to wolves, and she eventually grew up with a wolf pup. After that insult to her deceased parents, Morlock found her, and they started adventuring together. The old geezer then asked Saitou to take care of Raelza, since his time was almost up. Episode 10. Saitou quickly accepted to take care of Raelza and accepted the undead old man as his father-in-law. As they shared that sweet moment, the demon dog attacked Morlock. As if the sausage wasn't enough, he took the old man's arm now. The magical energy was surging through the dog's body, and it thought Morlock had come to take his energy back. Raelza and the rest were worried, so she and Lefanpan went back to figure out what was going on. They arrived at the scene and saw the useless guys lying down with their injured bodies after getting beaten up by a skinny house dog. While Lefanpan healed Raelza's future husband, the warrior started to fight the demon dog. Raelza got bitten and burned by the dog, but she still managed to slash its neck. The dog's cub then showed up to protect its father when she was about to finish it off. The demon dog asked for his son's life to be spared, and she agreed. Unfortunately, a greater demon showed up to take the demon dog back to the demon realm. Raelza managed to defeat the demon, but the demon lord showed up to take back the dog himself. She played the hero and told her useless house husband to flee with a fanpan. Saitou turned back and was able to release her from being bound. Raelza used all her might to slash the demon lord in two, but he just started chanting an ice spell that slowly started turning her into a popsicle. Saitou pushed her out of the way and became frozen in her place. Before getting frozen, he managed to move Morlock's body beside the demon dog, and the magical energy started flowing back into him. He came back in the nick of time to save Raelza and Saitou. This time around, his brain was able to function well, and he remembered his spell, which helped to take down the demon lord. Just when it was about to be a normal moment, the wind blew Morlock's hat away, revealing some weird fox ears. Episode 11. Thanks to the essence of the demon dog, Morlock now had fox ears and a tail. Gibungle was still fighting a lot of undead and was at his wit's end before Flanrill and Ninia showed up to help him. Morlock wanted to return the demon dog's powers so that the cub could still have a father, but the demon lord came back like a stubborn stain and attacked him. Morlock regained his youth thanks to the combined power of his own and that of the demon dog. After dishing out numerous Tekken combos and even summoning a meteor, it still wasn't enough to defeat the demon lord. Unfortunately, Morlock's old age came back, along with his cursed, rusty brain and memories. Raelza and the fanpan were slow to react, so Saitou popped out and slashed one of the demon lord's arms. Morlock burned the demon's body, and it looked like everything had finally ended. Raelza ran towards the love of her life while removing her armor. Degenerates would think that it was about to be a steamy moment. But guess who showed up to ruin it all again? Yeah, the demon lord still stuck around, but the demon dog's pup came out and slayed it once and for all. Gibungle, Flanrill, and Ninia showed up. Ninia then cast a spell to cleanse the area and stop the horde of undead that kept springing up. With that over, Morlock poured back some magical energy into the demon dog to revive it. The dog was revived, and his curse was broken. Morlock passed out like a log of wood and left Saitou in charge of producing grandkids with his subpar mushroom. The dog said he would repay the debt, but Raelza refused and told him to never approach their town again. Episode 12. The next day, Saitou woke up from his injuries and saw Raelza by his side. Morlock had also recovered due to his inexhaustible magical reserve. The old man began helping around the inn by guiding the female customers to their rooms. What happens after his guidance is still a question that hasn't been answered. After that, Raelza and Saitou went to talk outside, where he finally confessed his feelings for her. As always, they could never have a sweet moment. Gibungle showed up to ask for Saitou's help, because Morlock lost the key to the inn. The old man put on the undergarments of a guest and locked the door. I guess the question was finally answered. When they returned to the inn, Morlock sat and remembered the situation with his third leg. Apparently, at some point when he regained his youth, he turned into a woman and somehow developed feelings for Saitou. Meanwhile, Saitou surprises Ralza with a hairpin as a gift after crafting Azio's hidden blade for her. Later that night, Lafanpan had a dream where she was human-sized and in love with Saitou. She woke up from her dream to see the handyman staring at her fairy-sized melons and naked body. The cause of her dream was the vase that Saitou used as a bath for her. Gibungle creepily popped by the windowside and explained that it was a vase that temporarily made fairies larger. Then, Morlock showed up naked after losing all his clothes to gambling. He used the vase to cover his mushroom, and let's just say the size was enough for him to start a town by himself. As time went on, Saitou helped out different people due to their requests. Slowly, his reputation spread across the kingdom, and his life finally started to have some value. If you loved this recap, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more amazing content. See you in the next recap!